Alex's hands shook slightly as he stepped onto the sleek metal ramp leading to the starcraft. It gleamed under the bright lights of the training hangar, polished to a shine that reflected the nervous expression on his face. The ship was unlike anything he had ever seen, slim, aerodynamic, and almost alive with quiet humming. Today was his first interstellar navigation lesson, and the excitement inside him battled his fear. "Remember, Alex," a calm voice called. "Go slow. Take your time." Alex turned to see Captain Celine, his instructor, standing nearby. She was tall, with hair tied back neatly and eyes that seemed to see everything at once. She wore the uniform of the Galactic Navigation Corps, and though she looked calm, there was a quiet authority in the way she carried herself. "Of course, Captain," Alex replied, trying to steady his voice. "I'll be careful." Celine gave him a small smile but didn't say more. Alex assumed she meant he should handle the ship carefully, and he nodded. Stepping onto the starcraft and sliding into the pilot's seat, the cockpit was a maze of lights, buttons, and holographic displays. Every panel glowed softly, showing star maps, navigation paths, and the ship's status. Alex ran his fingers over the controls nervously.
"Oh."
Trying to memorize the positions. "Don't just focus on the controls," Celine said as she slid into the co-pilot seat beside him. "Pay attention to the ship. Feel it. Listen. Every starcraft has a rhythm. You'll learn it faster if you move with it instead of against it." Alex swallowed hard and nodded again. He had read all the manuals, completed all the simulations, and still felt unprepared. In theory, piloting a starcraft was simple. In reality, the moment you left the hangar and entered open space, anything could happen. Celine activated the ship's systems, and a soft hum filled the cockpit. Lights danced along the panels as the starcraft powered up. Outside the window, the hangar doors slowly opened, revealing the endless expanse of space beyond. Stars stretched across the void like scattered diamonds, and Alex felt a shiver of awe. "Focus," Celine said quietly. "This is your first real lesson. Don't let excitement or fear control you. You go at your pace. The ship will adjust to you, but only if your mind is calm." Alex nodded, though he couldn't shake a nagging thought. "Slow. Take my time. I can do this." The ship lifted smoothly, rising from the hangar floor without a sound. Alex gripped the controls tightly, feeling the gentle sway as it floated upward. The hangar doors opened fully, and the stars beyond seemed to stretch forever. "Set your course for the training corridor," Celine instructed. "It's a simple route, but it will test your focus." Alex tapped the navigation panel and entered the coordinates. The corridor was a standard path through a nearby asteroid belt, commonplace for first-time pilots to practice maneuvering, testing reaction time, and learning to trust their instincts. As the ship accelerated, Alex felt a rush of adrenaline. The stars streaked past the cockpit window, and the ship responded immediately to his every movement. Yet, despite the thrill, a part of him remained tense. He kept glancing at Celine, who remained calm, scanning the controls, occasionally pointing out minor adjustments. "Remember," she said after a few minutes, "don't just think about the ship. Think about yourself. Breathe. Observe. Predict. The moment you panic, the ship will feel it." Alex tried to follow her advice, inhaling deeply, letting the rhythm of the ship guide him. It was strange, almost like the ship was alive, responding to his mood. The controls were smooth, but only if he moved with confidence and clarity. The corridor was not as simple as it seemed. Small asteroids floated gently in space, while larger ones loomed like silent towers. Alex had to adjust constantly, tilting and rotating the ship, avoiding collisions. The manual had described every movement in technical terms, but nothing prepared him for the feeling of actual space beneath him. "Good," Celine said. "Now slow down here." Alex reduced the ship's speed, carefully navigating a cluster of smaller asteroids. He felt the ship respond instantly, almost like it was anticipating his next move. He smiled, feeling a small surge of pride. Maybe he could do this after all. But then a shadow passed across his view, a larger asteroid, faster than he expected. His heart jumped. He pushed the controls instinctively, but the ship tilted too sharply, sending him spinning slightly. "Stop." Selena's voice rang out. "Focus. Don't fight it. Flow with it." Alex took a deep breath, remembering her words. "Go slow. Take your time. Not the ship. Me." He calmed his racing thoughts and allowed his mind to guide his hands instead of panicking. Slowly, deliberately, he adjusted the controls. The ship steadied. The asteroid drifted past harmlessly, you see, Celine said quietly, her eyes softening with approval. "It's not just about the ship, Alex. It's about you. Your mind controls the speed, the focus, and the outcome. You can't rush your decisions, or the universe will remind you." Alex nodded, feeling both relief and a strange sense of accomplishment. He realized that piloting was not just a skill, it was a test of patience, control, and awareness. He felt a deeper connection with the ship, understanding it as an extension of his own perception. "Next exercise," Selene said, pointing to a cluster of holographic markers on the display. "We'll simulate an anomaly field. It's safe, but it will challenge your perception and timing. Remember what I told you, slow down. Take your time. Observe." Alex swallowed. An anomaly field? He had read about them, regions of space where time and gravity could behave unpredictably, where even experienced pilots had struggled. His palms felt clammy, but he nodded as the ship approached the simulated anomaly. The stars outside began to shimmer strangely. Light bent in unusual ways, and the markers on the display flickered. Alex's instinct screamed at him to panic, to speed through and escape the confusing visuals, but he remembered Selene's words. He slowed his breathing, focused on the ship's response, and let his mind guide him. The controls moved smoothly under his hands, responding to subtle adjustments, almost as if the ship could sense his clarity. "You're doing well," Selene said. "Notice the details, not the fear. Every movement counts." Alex nodded, eyes wide with concentration. He maneuvered through the shimmering field, carefully adjusting the trajectory. Time seemed to stretch seconds, felt like minutes, but he didn't falter. Every turn, every tilt, every slight push of the control panel became deliberate and meaningful. When the field finally ended, Alex exhaled deeply. The stars returned to their normal brilliance. The markers on the display aligned neatly. "You survived your first anomaly," Selene said, a small smile on her face. "And you didn't just survive, you learned. That's what matters." Alex leaned back in the seat, heart still pounding, but with a newfound sense of confidence. He had learned something that no manual or simulation could teach, that the key to mastering the stars was mastering oneself first. Selene gave a final nod. "Good work, Alex. That's enough for today. Remember, speed can be controlled, but patience. Patience is earned. And if you learn that, you'll go far." As they returned to the hangar, Alex stared out at the endless expanse of stars. He had entered the ship nervous and unsure. Now, he felt a spark of understanding, a tiny flame of courage. The universe was vast and full of unknown dangers, but for the first time, he felt ready to face them one slow, deliberate step at a time. The starcraft touched down gently. Alex unbuckled himself and stepped onto the ramp, feeling the hum of the ship fade beneath his feet. He looked at Selene, who was already inspecting the ship with practiced ease. "You did well," she said simply. "Tomorrow, we go further. And remember," she paused, letting the words hang in the air, "I didn't mean the ship." Alex smiled, understanding fully now. This was not just a lesson in piloting, it was a lesson in life, courage, and humanity. And he was ready to learn more. The next morning, Alex returned to the hangar with a mix of excitement and unease. The memory of yesterday's lesson, the anomaly field, and Selena's cryptic advice lingered in his mind. He walked slowly toward the starcraft, glancing at the polished surface that reflected the early sunlight. Today Selene promised they would venture further than any beginner normally would. "Ready for the next step?" Selene asked, stepping out from the shadows of the hangar. Her eyes held that same calm intensity, as if she already knew what was about to happen. Alex swallowed. "I think so," he said, though his voice was quieter than he intended. Celine gave a faint smile. Good. Remember, slow, deliberate. Think with more than your hands. Your mind is as important as the ship. Alex climbed into the cockpit, his fingers brushing the controls almost reverently. The ship's hum welcomed him like an old friend, soothing the tension that still coiled in his stomach. Celine sat beside him, hands folded, silent for a moment, as the systems powered up. Today, we leave the corridor, she said finally. We'll enter uncharted space. You'll see things that don't exist on any map. You'll need to rely on observation and patience. Alex felt a thrill. Uncharted space, no markers, no known routes. Just him, the ship, and Celine's watchful guidance. The ship lifted smoothly, floating past the hangar doors and into the black expanse beyond. Stars stretched endlessly in every direction, but today they seemed sharper, almost alive, as though they were watching him. Coordinates set? Celine asked. Yes, Alex replied, tapping the navigation panel. To the edge of the sector, near the Helios cluster, could keep your mind open. The unexpected is often the only thing you can trust out there. As the ship accelerated, Alex marveled at the beauty of space. Asteroids drifted lazily in the distance. Distant suns shimmered like jewels, and colorful nebulae painted the void with their luminous hues. But even as he admired the scene, a small feeling of unease crept in. Something about this sector felt different. Relax, Celine said, as if reading his mind. Curiosity is important, but so is caution. There's a difference between observing and reacting without thought. The first challenge came sooner than expected. A strange distortion appeared ahead, like a ripple across the fabric of space itself. Alex felt a jolt of fear. His instincts screamed that it was dangerous, yet his mind remembered Celine's advice. Slow, deliberate, patient. Approach it carefully, Celine instructed. Don't rush. Let it reveal itself to you. Alex eased the ship forward, every movement cautious. As he neared the distortion, the stars around him twisted strangely, bending light and shadow into patterns he had never seen. It wasn't just a visual effect. The ship's sensors registered nothing abnormal, yet every instinct told him that reality itself was changing. Stay calm, Celine said softly. This is the real lesson. Not the ship, not even the field. It's you. Alex took a deep breath, forcing his racing heart to slow. He remembered how the ship had responded to his focus yesterday. He realized that panic would make it harder to navigate this new space. He adjusted the controls with care, letting the ship move fluidly, almost as if it were an extension of his thoughts. Time began to feel strange. Seconds stretched into what felt like minutes, and the stars outside seemed to shimmer with a rhythm that was hard to follow. Alex's mind spun at first, but he reminded himself to stay patient. Each decision mattered, and rushing could have dangerous consequences. The distortion began to resolve itself. Alex saw the faint outline of massive structures floating, translucent, and completely alien. They were neither ships nor asteroids, yet they moved with a purpose, drifting gracefully as if guided by invisible hands. What are those? Alex whispered, awe and fear mixed in his voice. Celine didn't answer immediately. Instead, she gestured for him to observe. You're seeing them for the first time, yes. But don't just watch. Learn from them. Every movement has meaning. Alex studied the structures carefully. They seemed almost alive, pulsating with faint energy. Some rotated slowly, while others emitted soft glows, shifting color and patterns he couldn't predict. He realized that any sudden movement could startle them or worse, trigger something unknown. Slow, Celine said, every reaction matters. You are not racing against them. You are moving with them. Alex mirrored her words in his mind. Slowly, he adjusted the ship's trajectory, matching the rhythm of the structures. To his surprise, they responded not aggressively, but as if acknowledging him. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but he felt a strange sense of connection. Ours are perhaps only minutes past in this careful dance. Alex's focus sharpened, and he began to notice patterns he hadn't seen before. The structures weren't random. They moved according to a logic that could only be understood by patience and observation. Every shift, every glow, every rotation told a story. And Alex slowly began to understand it. "Excellent," Celine said at last. "You are beginning to perceive what most humans cannot. Not because you are smarter, because you are patient, aware, and deliberate. That is what makes humanity remarkable." Alex blinked. Her words sank deep into him. He had thought the lesson was about piloting, about controlling a ship. But Celine was teaching him something much bigger. Humans survived not just because of skill, but because of awareness, curiosity, and adaptability. As they continued through the sector, a sudden alert flashed on the control panel. The ship's sensors had picked up an unusual energy signature, small, rapidly moving anomaly. Alex felt a jolt of fear, but Selena's calm presence reminded him to focus. "Approach carefully," she said. "Observe first. React second." The anomaly darted unpredictably, almost like it was alive. Alex adjusted the ship, following its movement without panicking. His mind raced to calculate speed, distance, and trajectory, but he reminded himself, patience first. He allowed the ship to flow, responding naturally to the anomaly rather than forcing control. To his astonishment, the anomaly slowed as he approached. It hovered briefly, almost as if studying him, before vanishing into the depths of space. Alex exhaled slowly, his pulse finally returning to normal. "You see," Celine said, "the universe isn't something to conquer. It's something to understand. Speed and strength are temporary. Awareness and patience endure. That is what gives humans an edge." Alex nodded, realizing that each encounter today had tested more than his piloting skill. It had tested his mind, his perception, his ability to remain calm under pressure, as the ship neared the far edge of the Helios cluster. The structures he had observed earlier shimmered one last time before dissolving into the void. The stars returned to their normal positions, and the familiar darkness of space stretched endlessly before them. "Today, you took your first real step beyond known space," Celine said, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "And you did more than survive. You learned to see, to adapt, to endure. That is more important than speed or strength. That is what makes humans remarkable." Alex leaned back in the seat, feeling a sense of accomplishment he had never known. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries and dangers. But for the first time, he felt that he was capable not just as a pilot, but as a human navigating the unknown. Celine guided the ship back toward familiar territory. Her presence, a steady anchor in the quiet void. Alex's mind wandered, thinking of what he had seen and felt. He realized that patience, observation, and awareness weren't just lessons for piloting, they were lessons for life, for survival, for understanding the universe itself. As they re-entered the hangar, the stars fading behind them, Alex knew he had changed. The galaxy was bigger than he had imagined, more alive and mysterious, but he no longer felt small or afraid. He had learned to move with it, not against it. And he understood now why Celine had said, "Go slow. Take your time." It wasn't the ship that needed slowing. It was him, stepping out onto the hangar floor. Alex felt the weight of the universe pressing gently on his shoulders, but instead of fear, he felt purpose. Tomorrow, he would venture further. Tomorrow, he would face new mysteries. And this time, he would be ready. The following day, Alex arrived at the hangar before sunrise. The air was cool, and the stars above still sparkled faintly in the early light. He could feel the quiet excitement buzzing inside him. Yesterday's journey into uncharted space had changed something in him. He had seen the strange structures, navigated the anomaly, and learned to slow his mind when the universe seemed unpredictable. But today, Celine warned, the lessons would be harder. "Ready for what comes next?" Celine asked as he approached the starcraft. Her tone was calm, but there was a faint seriousness in her eyes that made Alex sit up straighter. "I think so," Alex said, though a part of him felt uncertain. Celine nodded. "Good. Today we step into the true unknown. You'll face challenges not just of skill, but of perception, judgment, and patience. Remember, the ship obeys, but your mind must lead." Alex climbed into the cockpit, fingers brushing the smooth controls. The starcraft hummed to life, as if greeting him. Celine took her seat beside him, folding her hands, calm and focused. "Coordinates are set for the glimmering void," Celine said. "It's a region beyond mapped space. Some call it dangerous. I call it necessary." Alex swallowed. Dangerous. His heart skipped a beat, but he remembered her words. Slow, deliberate, calm. The ship lifted from the hangar with a graceful hum, and the doors slid open to reveal the endless black canvas of space. As they left familiar territory, the stars grew denser, and a faint shimmer appeared at the edge of perception, a subtle distortion that seemed to ripple across reality itself. Alex felt a twinge of fear. His instincts wanted him to pull back, but he resisted. He adjusted the controls gently, letting the ship flow forward with precision and care. "You see it?" Celine asked quietly. "The glimmering void tests more than skill. It tests patience, clarity, and awareness. Watch, listen, and understand." Alex studied the anomaly. The light around it warped, bending in ways that made him feel dizzy. Yet as he focused, he began to notice patterns. Tiny shifts in the shimmer signaled movement. Subtle vibrations suggested hidden pathways. Slowly, deliberately, he adjusted the ship. Following the rhythm of the void, hours seemed to pass as he guided the craft through the strange space. The ship responded like an extension of his mind, moving fluidly, as if it understood his intentions. The shimmer shifted, sometimes opening invisible corridors, other times closing them abruptly. Every choice mattered. Then came the first real challenge. A massive energy wave surged through the void, twisting space around it. Alex's heart raced. Sensors could not measure its exact force, and even a small miscalculation could send the ship spinning. His first instinct was to accelerate and escape, but Selena's voice cut through his panic. "Slow. Observe first. React second. Think with your mind, not your fear." Alex swallowed and slowed the ship, focusing on the wave. He noticed that its movement followed a rhythm, slowly rising, then falling, then pausing. He synchronized the ship's movements to match the rhythm, adjusting carefully. The wave passed, brushing past the ship but leaving it unharmed. "Good," Celine said softly. "You are learning. Survival is not just speed or power. It is understanding." As they moved deeper into the glimmering void, strange phenomena appeared. Transparent shapes drifted across the starfield, sometimes appearing humanoid, sometimes entirely alien. They didn't react aggressively, but seemed to observe Alex's ship, testing him. The ship's instruments recorded nothing tangible, yet the shapes moved in response to Alex's every decision. "Curious, aren't they?" Celine asked. "Some call them observers. Others call them tests. Either way, they evaluate more than your skills. They are measuring your humanity." Alex frowned. "Humanity? What do you mean?" Selena's gaze was calm. "Strength can be copied. Skill can be learned. But judgment, empathy, courage, and adaptability, these define humans. They notice these traits in you." Alex felt a chill. He had thought this was about piloting, about handling a starcraft in dangerous conditions. But Selena's words made him realize the truth. The universe wasn't just challenging. His skills, it was testing his character. The shapes approached closer. Alex's first impulse was fear. But he paused, remembered Celine's advice, and observed. He noticed patterns in their movement, subtle cues that suggested they respected careful and deliberate action. He adjusted the ship, mirroring their pace, and suddenly the shapes slowed, almost acknowledging him. Hours stretched unnaturally. Alex's perception of time began to warp. Moments felt stretched, like the universe itself was challenging his patience. Fatigue crept in, but he forced himself to remain aware, calm, and deliberate. Every small adjustment mattered. Then the observers created a simulation. Alex saw visions of possible failures, crew members lost, ships damaged, paths blocked. Every scenario was designed to trigger panic. The glimmering void projected not only the external challenges, but internal doubts, fears, and what-ifs. Alex's heart raced as one scenario after another unfolded. He felt the familiar pressure to act quickly, to choose without thinking. But he remembered yesterday's lessons. Slow, deliberate, think. He allowed his mind to analyze each situation, prioritizing observation over instinctive reaction. When a holographic crew member appeared in danger, he calculated a careful maneuver, rescuing the figure without rushing. When pathways seemed blocked, he paused, considering alternative options, eventually finding safe passage. Every decision was guided by patience, awareness, and humanity. Celine watched quietly. Good. You are learning what cannot be taught in a classroom or manual. You are discovering why humans endure where others fail. At last, the simulation ended. The void around them settled into calm emptiness. The observers lingered for a moment, then disappeared into the depths of space, leaving behind faint traces of light, almost like a reward. Alex exhaled, trembling from the intensity of the experience. I made it through, he whispered, though he hardly recognized the words as true. Celine smiled. You did more than survive. You demonstrated what humans excel at: adaptability, empathy, and courage. These are traits that machines, aliens, and even stars themselves cannot replicate. Alex leaned back, his body exhausted but his mind alive with awareness. He realized that the glimmering void was not simply a dangerous region of space. It was a mirror, reflecting his strengths, weaknesses, and potential. The universe had challenged him in every way it could, and he had passed not because of speed, skill, or luck, but because he had remained human. The return journey was quiet. Alex's hands rested lightly on the controls, no longer tense or trembling. He observed the stars with calm curiosity, noting their colors, positions, and subtle shifts. He felt a sense of connection with space that went beyond navigation, a deeper understanding that humans could interpret and adapt to even the strangest phenomena. Today, Celine said softly as they approached familiar space, you were tested by something no one else can touch. You were measured by the universe itself, and it found your humanity strong. Remember this feeling. It is more valuable than any manual, simulator, or skill test. Alex nodded, his mind brimming with awe. The stars outside seemed less like distant points of light and more like guides silent, witnesses to his growth. When the ship finally touched down in the hangar, Alex unbuckled himself, his body heavy but his spirit lighter than ever. He looked at Celine, who had already begun her routine inspection of the ship. You did well, she said quietly. Not because the universe allowed it, but because you understood it. That understanding is rare and precious. Alex smiled faintly. Thank you, Captain. I think I understand. A little more. Selena's eyes softened. And that, Alex, is why I said go slow. Take your time. You are learning more than piloting. You are learning what it means to be human in a vast, challenging universe. Alex stepped out of the cockpit and took a deep breath. The hangar felt warmer than usual, and the stars outside seemed to shimmer with new possibilities. He realized that the universe, for all its dangers and mysteries, was a place where humans could not only survive but thrive if they remembered to be patient, aware and true to themselves as they walked back toward the training center. Alex's mind raced with thoughts of what lay ahead. The glimmering void had tested him beyond his imagination, yet he had emerged stronger. He knew that the next lesson would be even harder, but he no longer felt fear. He had learned the value of patience, perception, and humanity, and he was ready to face whatever the universe had in store. The morning air in the hangar was crisp, carrying the scent of machinery and metal polish. Alex stood before the starcraft, feeling the hum of the ship beneath his fingertips, as if it recognized him. Today would not be a routine lesson. Celine had only given him a single warning. The next challenge will test everything you've learned. Not just skill, but patience, courage, and clarity. Alex nodded to himself. Yesterday's experience in the glimmering void had changed him. He now understood that piloting was more than pressing buttons or calculating speed. It was about observing, adapting, and trusting his instincts. Yet a part of him still wondered, Could he handle what Celine called the ultimate challenge? Ready? Celine asked, stepping beside him. Her eyes were calm, but there was a quiet intensity that Alex had learned to respect. I am, replied, steadying his voice. Celine nodded. Good. Today we enter the temporal drift. The words made Alex pause. Temporal drift. He had read about it in the training manuals, an unstable region of space where time itself warped unpredictably. Pilots who lacked patience or focus could easily lose track of reality. Sometimes for hours, sometimes for days, all in the blink of an eye. The ship obeys you, Celine said, but your mind must guide it. You cannot rush here. You cannot panic. You must remain aware, deliberate, and human. Alex stepped into the cockpit, feeling the weight of the task ahead. The ship powered up, humming with quiet energy. As they lifted off the hangar floor, Alex allowed himself to take a deep breath, steadying his thoughts. The doors opened to space, revealing a corridor of stars stretching endlessly. But as they approached the coordinates for the temporal drift, the light of the stars began to twist, elongating and flickering unpredictably. Shadows moved where none should exist. Alex's stomach tightened. Remember Celine's voice cut through the rising tension? Slow. Observe. Think before you act. Alex adjusted the ship's controls gently, entering the drift with deliberate care. Almost immediately, he felt the distortion in time. Seconds stretched, then compressed. The ship seemed to lag behind his commands, only responding a moment later. Panic nudged at the edges of his mind, but he forced himself to breathe and focus. The drift was alive in a way Alex had never imagined. Strange pulses of energy passed through the ship, creating ghostly afterimages of stars and ships that weren't really there. Sometimes it felt like he was moving backward, then forward again, as though time had lost its usual order. Trust your mind, not your eyes, Celine advised. Reality here is unreliable. You must sense the truth, not the illusion. Alex nodded, closing his eyes for a moment. He focused on the ship's vibrations, the hum of the engines, the gentle rhythm of the controls. Slowly, he began to synchronize with the drift. He learned to predict the pulses, just before the distortion hit, and move with the rhythm instead of against it. Hours or perhaps minutes passed. Time no longer had meaning. The drift created countless scenarios, each more confusing than the last, pathways that appeared and vanished. Ghost ships mimicking real obstacles and flashing lights that challenged perception. Alex learned to filter them out, observing carefully and reacting only to what was real. Then came the real test. A massive temporal surge appeared ahead, folding space in on itself. Sensors could barely measure it, and the ship shuddered in response. Alex's instincts screamed to flee, to accelerate blindly. But Selena's words echoed, slow, deliberate, aware. Alex slowed the ship, matching its movements to the subtle rhythm of the surge. Every decision mattered. Every small adjustment counted. He felt the ship respond, almost like a living partner, moving gracefully despite the chaotic forces around them. The surge pulled him in, bending time and space. Alex's mind spun. He could see visions of possible futures, somewhere he succeeded, somewhere he failed catastrophically. He felt the weight of every choice pressing down on him. Do not fear what you see, Selena's voice said calmly. It is not real. It is a reflection. Control your mind. Control the ship. Alex took a deep breath, letting the fear flow through him without panic. He focused on the present, one decision at a time. Carefully, deliberately, he guided the ship through the surge. Time twisted around him, stretching and compressing like a living thing. Yet Alex remained steady. After what felt like an eternity, the surge passed. The drift seemed to calm, and stars returned to their normal positions. Alex exhaled, trembling from the intensity, yet a feeling of exhilaration filled him. You did it, Celine said softly. Not because the ship obeyed you, but because you obeyed yourself. You understood the lesson. Control your mind, and you can control anything. Alex leaned back, exhaustion mixing with pride. He realized the truth of her words. The drift had tested more than skill. It had tested patience, courage, clarity, and human resilience. It had forced him to see that survival in space was not just a matter of technology, it was a matter of mind, heart, and perception as they navigated back toward familiar space. Alex noticed subtle changes within himself. He felt calmer, more aware, more connected to the ship, the stars, and even to Celine. He understood now that the universe did not merely challenge humans, it respected those who observed, adapted, and acted with care. "You've grown today," Celine said, her eyes reflecting quiet pride. "The drift does not forgive mistakes, yet you have emerged stronger. That is why humanity thrives among the stars. Patience, awareness, courage, and judgment. Machines can calculate, but they cannot adapt. Aliens may be strong, but they may lack our resilience. And we humans have both heart and mind in balance." Alex nodded, humbled by the lesson. He felt a deep sense of respect for the universe, for Celine, and for the capabilities within himself. The temporal drift had shown him the limits of fear and the power of clarity. "Tomorrow," Celine added, "we will move even further. But remember this: mastery begins with patience, and mastery of self is mastery of all." The journey back was quiet. Alex allowed himself to observe the stars, noting their brilliance, color, and movement. He felt a subtle shift within an understanding that speed and strength were secondary to perception and patience. When the ship finally touched down in the hangar, Alex unbuckled himself, legs weak but mind sharp. He stepped out into the early morning light, breathing deeply, feeling the universe around him in a way he had never felt before. Celine was already outside, inspecting the ship with calm precision. She turned as Alex approached. "You did well," she said quietly. "Not because the drift allowed it, but because you understood it. That understanding is rare. That is what will allow humanity to thrive." Alex smiled faintly. "Thank you, Captain. I feel like I understand a lot more now." Celine nodded. "Good. Remember, every challenge is more than it appears. The universe tests mind, heart, and courage. And when you master those, you can master anything." Alex looked back at the starcraft. It had become more than a machine. It was a partner, a guide, and a reflection of his own mind. He realized that the journey ahead would be even more challenging, but for the first time, he felt ready. Stepping away from the ship, Alex carried a quiet confidence. The universe was vast, mysterious, and sometimes frightening, but he had learned to move with it, not against it. He had discovered patience, clarity, and courage. He had begun to master not just the ship, but himself. And as he walked toward the training center, he knew that the greatest journeys were still ahead, waiting for him to meet them with awareness, intelligence, and humanity. The hangar was quiet as Alex approached the starcraft for the final lesson. A faint hum resonated beneath his fingers, familiar now, comforting, yet filled with possibility. The lessons in the glimmering void and the temporal drift had changed him. He no longer felt fear when facing the unknown. Instead, a quiet confidence flowed through him. Today, Celine said, would be the ultimate test, not just of skill, but of humanity itself. "Today, we go beyond preparation," Celine said, her voice calm but commanding. "You will navigate an uncharted sector, face challenges you cannot predict, and discover what it truly means to be human in the galaxy. Are you ready?" Alex nodded. He had come this far because of patience, awareness, and courage. He trusted himself and the ship. "Good," Celine said. "Then let us begin." The starcraft lifted from the hangar floor with gentle power. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, and the familiar black of space embraced them. Alex guided the ship toward the uncharted sector. The sensors showed nothing familiar. No paths, no markers, only the vast unknown. "Observe first," Celine reminded him. "React second. And remember what you have learned. The universe respects patience, courage, and clarity." Alex's fingers hovered over the controls as he moved slowly forward. The ship's hum felt alive, responding to his focus. Soon, strange phenomena appeared ahead, twisting lights, floating structures, and faint energy waves that rippled unpredictably across space. Alex's heart raced, but his mind remained steady. "Do not panic," Celine said. "You've faced worse. This is about observation and adaptability." As they moved deeper, an unexpected anomaly appeared, a cluster of energy formations swirling like storm clouds in space. They moved unpredictably, blocking possible pathways. Alex studied them, noticing subtle patterns in their rotation and flow. He realized that rushing would lead to collision or entrapment. Instead, he slowed, adjusting the ship's movements to follow the rhythm of the formations. Hours seemed to pass in this delicate dance. Alex guided the ship with care, matching the pulses of the energy formations. Each decision mattered. Every adjustment was deliberate. He felt the universe testing him, observing his patience, courage, and judgment. "Excellent," Celine said quietly. "You are learning what no simulation can teach. The universe does not forgive recklessness. It rewards observation, adaptability, and awareness. That is what makes humans special." Alex smiled faintly, feeling pride mixed with awe. But his challenge was far from over. The formations began to converge, creating narrow, twisting corridors. Sensors struggled to provide information. Alex realized that he would have to rely entirely on intuition and observation. He guided the ship carefully. Following visual cues and subtle vibrations, the corridors narrowed further, then expanded, creating a maze-like structure. The energy formations pulsed in response to his movements, as if testing him. "Do not rush," Celine said. "Remember the lessons: patience, awareness, courage, clarity." Alex focused, breathing steadily. He noticed tiny shifts in the formation's patterns that allowed him to predict their movement. He maneuvered through each twist and turn, relying on careful observation rather than speed. His mind was clear, his actions deliberate. Slowly, deliberately, he reached the center of the cluster. There, a strange phenomenon appeared, a glowing sphere of energy, radiating light and warmth. Sensors could not measure it accurately. It felt alive, as if it contained knowledge of the universe itself. Alex realized that this was the reward for mastering the challenges. It's not something material, but a deeper understanding. Celine's voice broke the silence. "This is what the universe offers to those who can see, understand, and act with clarity. Not strength, not speed. Humanity is measured by awareness, courage, and judgment. This sphere is not for the taking, it is for the understanding. Observe it, and you will carry its lesson forever." Alex stared at the sphere, feeling awe and humility. The challenges he had faced, the glimmering void, the temporal drift, the uncharted sector, had all led to this moment. He realized that survival, success, and progress in the universe depended not on power or speed, but on patience, perception, and adaptability. As he observed, the sphere pulsed faintly, almost like it recognized him. Alex felt a connection not with the object itself, but with the principle it represented. The universe, in all its vastness and mystery, rewarded those who remained human in thought, courage, and heart. Suddenly, the formations around him began to dissipate. The twisting corridors opened into open space. Stars shone clearly once again. Alex guided the ship forward, feeling calm and confident. "You have done more than survive," Celine said softly. "You have demonstrated what humans can achieve. Machines calculate. Aliens may be powerful, but humans endure, adapt, and understand. That is why we explore, survive, and thrive among the stars." Alex felt a sense of pride unlike anything he had experienced. He had learned more than piloting. He had learned patience, courage, awareness, and judgment. He understood that the universe was a place of challenges, but also of opportunity for those who could observe, adapt, and act wisely. The journey back to familiar space was quiet. Alex's hands rested lightly on the controls, guiding the ship with ease. He observed the stars, noting subtle differences in brightness, color, and position. He felt a deeper connection with the universe's sense that he was part of a larger whole. capable of understanding and influencing it. Tomorrow, Celine said, breaking the silence, you will face new challenges. But today you have mastered something greater than skill. You have mastered yourself. Alex nodded, understanding fully. The lessons of speed, fear, and reaction had been replaced with understanding, patience, and awareness. He realized that the ship, the stars, and even Celine had been guides. But the true lesson had been within him all along. When they finally returned to the hangar, the familiar hum of machinery and the scent of metal greeted them. Alex unbuckled, stretching his tired muscles. Feeling a sense of calm and fulfillment, Celine stepped out, her eyes reflecting quiet pride. You have done well, Alex, not because the universe allowed it, but because you understood it. You saw patterns, reacted with patience, and maintained courage. That is what will allow humanity to thrive among the stars. Alex smiled, feeling the weight of her words. I understand now, he said quietly. It's not just about piloting or skill, it's about observation, courage, patience, and awareness. That's what makes humans capable. Celine nodded. Exactly. Remember this feeling. The universe is vast, mysterious, and sometimes dangerous. But humans have something special. Heart and mind in balance. You've proven that you can rise to any challenge, not with strength, but with humanity. Alex looked at the starcraft, feeling a deep connection. It had been more than a machine. It had been a partner, a guide, and a reflection of his mind and character. He realized that the lessons would continue. But he was ready. The day ended quietly, with the sun setting beyond the hangar doors. Alex felt calm and focused, knowing that the universe held more mysteries. But he now had the tools to face them. Patience, courage, awareness, and clarity. As he walked with Celine toward the training center, he reflected on the journey. The stars had tested him. The anomalies had challenged him. But he had emerged stronger, wiser, and more aware. He realized that the greatest reward was not the completion of the mission or mastery of the ship. It was the growth within himself, the realization of what it meant to be human in an infinite, complex universe. And as Alex looked at the stars above, he knew one thing for certain: no matter how vast or unpredictable the galaxy, humanity had the strength to endure, adapt, and thrive. The journey was far from over, but he was ready to face it with awareness, courage, and heart.